Hey everyone, here is the most overpowered Bard build in Baldur's Gate 3. This is going to be using the Sword Bard, and we're also going to multiclass in the Paladin. The best part about this is we have huge nuke damage on melee targets, we're great at ranged attacking with our bow, and we're also a really great spellcaster, getting all the way up to level 6 spell slots. And I would actually recommend starting off as the Bard. For the cantrips that we'll be taking, Vicious Mockery, always have this. It's one of the funniest cantrips in the game, and it's nice damage, and we can later on do this as a bonus action. Now, if you're the main character, take Friends. It's just a really good cantrip. If you're on Tactician or Honor mode, you have to be careful because after 10 turns, this can cause issues, so leave the area if you talk to someone and use this spell, but depends really if you're using, this is your face of the party, otherwise Mage Hand. For the spells we'll be grabbing, Thunder Wave's a great one because you can push enemies off of ledges and it's thunder damage, so it's good at breaking down walls. We also want to grab Tasha's Hideous Laughter, can knock a target prone, Dissonant Whispers for a bit of psychic damage and frightening a creature, making them so they cannot move. And then also Healing Word. If you don't have someone on your team with Longstrider, you can take off either Tasha's or Dissonant Whispers and throw on the Longstrider for the increased movement speed. And for our ability points here, I like to roll a 16 charisma here. If you want to use the hags here, you can drop one of your stats and put one up to like 17, for example, and then use that to put it up to 18. I'm not going to do that for the purpose of this build, but that is an option if you wanted to go with it. Now, I like to roll in 16 dexterity, and we're building around dex because we can do a little bit more damage with bows, and we also get our initiative bonus from our dexterity so that we can go first in combat, and also 14 constitution so we have a bit of health, and 16 charisma. And for our skills, this depends if you're the face of the party or not. Persuasion, Performance, and Deception are going to give you the best bang for your buck in terms of if you're like the face of the party. I have Intimidation because I'm playing as the Dark Urge. Otherwise, you could swap off Performance for Intimidation. But if you want to be more of like a roguish kind of character, you can go with Stealth and Sleight of Hand here. And even if you want to, you can take off like Deception if you want to go for like a full good playthrough and add in Stealth for a bit of extra combat efficiency. Upon hitting level 2 here, we get our Song of Rest, giving us an extra short rest, and we also get Jack of all trades, so we add half proficiency bonus to any ability checks we're not proficient in. On top of this, another cantrip. We can add in something like the Cure Wounds. Fairy Fire is nice to buff up your team, and you can use Disguise Self to get some of the Gith Yankee buffs if you wanted to, and then equip the item and remove your disguise. You'll keep all of those benefits. I think Fairy Fire works really well though, so we'll toss that onto the build. Level 3 is when we get to take our subclass. The best choice is the College of Swords. If you like mods, I did create the College of Winter Spirits, really fun mod. I highly recommend checking it out. But the College of Sword gives us our slashing flourish. What's crazy about this is once we hit level 6, it's best added in the Paladin so that we can use our Divine Smite and smite 2 targets at once. This is really powerful. Now, we can also use something like the Slashing Flourish ranged to attack someone with our bow twice, and you can attack the same target. Getting the mobile flourish is also nice for a bit of teleport, and the defensive flourishes will increase our armor class by 4. Now, our fighting style of choice, this really depends. If you're going to use like dual crossbows, 2-weapon fighting is great. If you want to use a shield, dueling will give you the highest damage. I think in this particular setup, it's best to go with the dueling feat, so we'll roll with that. But if you like to use two-handed weapons, we can go with that alternatively. We also get another spell here. Hold Person has such high value because you get free crits at melee range, so you can hold Person. Once you get a higher level spell slot, you can hold 2 people, and if you Slashing Flourish, you get 2 crits off on them. It's actually pretty crazy. Cloud of Daggers is nice too because there's no check, it just does damage. And Invisibility is also a pretty solid option, but we're going Hold Person here. Level 4 gives us another cantrip, and we'll grab Mage Hand here, or we can go with Light, I guess even Minor Illusion to group enemies up. And we'll take another spell here. Invisibility or the Cloud of Daggers works great. And even Crown of Madness can be kind of nice because you can make an enemy attack someone else, but Cloud of Daggers is good for certain hallways. And around level 4, you're going to want to fight in a few hallways, so this does help out quite a bit there. For the first feat of this build, Alert is just such high value. Plus 5 to initiative means you're going to go first in pretty much every turn of combat. It's crazy overpowered. Ability of Score Improvement on your Dexterity is another good option for more melee attacks and better Dexterity checks. Charisma is an okay choice, but it doesn't really benefit this build as much as a Dex or the Alert feat would. And I guess you could go Great Weapon Master a bit later on when we add the Paladin in, but I think for this purpose, I think Alert just means we get to use our enchantment spells early on. Level 5 gives us another choice. Glyph of Warding is nice because you can set this down before you get into a combat encounter, and if you're playing as a half-elf or an elf, you can put a sleep glyph at your feet and knock everyone around you to sleep while you stay awake. Plant Growth is also nice because it does not require concentration, you can just sit down in an area of effect, but we're going to go with the Glyph of Warding. And I should also mention Fear is a pretty good spell because it can make enemies drop their weapons and you can pick them up. Level 6 is when things come together. We get extra attack here, so you can attack twice per action, and with our slashing flourish, that means you can attack 4 people per action. Pretty crazy. Or if you're using the slashing flourish ranged, you can attack the same target with 4 arrows. It's pretty good. Now, we'll then grab for our next spell. I think plant growth is great. If you don't have that, you can grab fear, or if you haven't, we can again go back and take long strider. And once we hit level 7, this is important because at this point it's best for us to add in the paladin. This doesn't change our spellcasting ability modifiers, they're both charisma based. And for the paladin subclass, I would recommend the Oath of the Vengeance here. This gives you Inquisitor's Might, and level 2 ability is nice too. Oath of the Crown can work too because Righteous Clarity can add proficiency bonus to a target's attack rolls for 10 turns using your channel Oath. This is pretty nice because you can buff up someone that maybe has great weapon masters so that they're more likely to hit with their attacks. And you can pre-buff before combat since it lasts for 10 turns. The Paladin level 2 gives us our very powerful Divine Smite. This is a cornerstone of this build because we now can Slashing Flourish and Divine Smite at the same time. We also get another fighting style. I would recommend defense since we now have medium armor proficiency. We can get a bit of armor class out of that. You could grab protection, but defense ends up being better, and great weapon fighting if you want to use a two-handed weapon. But I think defense gives us the highest value. Now, one of the best spells we get is Command, because this is now, once we attack 3, we can use this as a bonus action if you grab the Band of the Mystic Scoundrel, which is highly worth grabbing. We can also throw on the Smite. Bless is great for an extra buff for the team, and Shield of Faith, and I would actually recommend throwing on the Thunder Smite for the pushback, although you also have the actual Thunderwave spell, so that is an alternative. Although we're going to be using all of our spell slots on Smite, mostly, and enchantment spells. Level 3, Vow of Enmity is really nice for attack rolls, advantage for 10 turns. Crazy, you apply that to yourself, but we're actually wanting to stay with the Bard. Now, what's fun about the Bard is once we get to Magical Secrets, we put everything together and it's insane. We're going to grab greater invisibility here at this level. You can turn yourself invisible, and if you have high enough stealth, which we buffed at the start here, you can be pretty much unseeable. We can also use items to give ourselves the ability to see in darkness, and then you can just be like a Gloomstalker assassin. It's kind of crazy. Confusion is another really great spell to toss on here because we can use that as a bonus action later on. So we'll take that next. I really like this. Not everyone's favorite spell. It hits in a huge area of effect. If they're confused, they have a 50-50 chance of doing something random like attacking or just skipping their turn. So it can be nice, although they still can end up attacking you. Now for the next feat, I would recommend going with an ability score improvement on dexterity, or my personal preference here is Savage Attacker. When making melee weapon attacks, you roll your damage die twice and use the highest result. This applies when we do our flourishes to 2 enemies, so that's a huge boost in DPS. It also applies to our Divine Smite, so this makes us the highest possible damage. Sentinel is another fun feat if you want to stick and be kind of like a tankier character, but Savage Attackers gives us huge burst damage, so the boosted dexterity is nice, but this is even better. Level 9 lets us take another spell. I would recommend Hold Monsters. It's an enchantment spell, and there's a lot of monsters that you're not able to hold person on. Level 10 gives us another cantrip, Minor Illusions, fantastic. Well, then you can either go Planar Binding or Dominate Person. This can be kind of funny sometimes, but we are at our last level here. We get Magical Secrets. You have a lot of options here. So some of the best are Cone of Cold. If you have a caster on your team that can set up water, like a cleric would create water, that doubles the damage for 128 max possible damage with that, which is really nice since we're going to be in melee range anyway. I'd also recommend throwing on Counterspell. This stops a spell from being cast. It's one of the best in the entire game. I also like Ice Storm for a bit of crowd control because this will create a surface, whereas Cone of Cold doesn't. But my preferences are to take Counterspell and Spirit Guardians. With Spirit Guardians, you can set up and have extra damage. Little asterisks here. If you're running a cleric and they have Spirit Guardians, you can't double dip on that same damage. So if that's the case, I would recommend going like Cone of Cold and Counterspell. And even elementals are nice, but there's scrolls for that if you really wanted to. The water elemental's main punch will double the damage for Cone of Cold. And even Hunger of Hadar can work because you can use a level 3 spell slot on that, but I think the best possible build for this is Counterspell and Spirit Guardians because crazy damage. You can't come and turn invisible when this is happening, but you can also throw down darkness, and if you have an item like the Eversight Ring, you can hide in the darkness and still damage with this. Now the skill proficiencies that will get maxed out here, we're going to go with Stealth here for plus 11. Again, Spirit Guardians would be priority, but having Stealth is really nice in a lot of situations, and it's better than Medicine, so we'll go with that. And if you like this outfit, this is the Cadenza Oscura outfit here by Barry Semifreddo. The swords are the swords that I made, Fire, Frost, and Flora swords, which is on Mod.io and Nexus. And we have the Scarlet Goddess cloak here as well. And Gale's also holding my Darker Sword and Shield pack mod. And as for equipment, we can actually get fully geared up in like Act 1. It just depends on the role that you want to fill. As a bard, you're kind of a buffer and debuffer, but since we mix in paladin, we're also nuke damage. My recommendation, if your cleric's not using it, luminous armor creates a radiant shockwave that we can trigger with our spirit guardians or divine smite. It's pretty silly. Luminous gloves, when we deal radiant damage, they'll also take 2 turns of reverb or 2 turns of radiating orbs further. And then boots of stormy clamor, when we apply that condition, we also apply 2 turns of reverberation, which could knock them prone and make them take thunder damage, which will also trigger our ring of spiteful thunder. Whenever you deal thunder damage to a reverberating creature, it becomes dazed unless it does a constitution saving throw. Which is even crazier when you throw on Fowler Alluve here, which says thunder damage, although it's an external source, so it doesn't actually trigger that properly. It's still a fun option because you can debuff enemies in the area of effect, and this is an Act 1 item. Another Act 1 item, the Knife of the Undermounted King. Increased critical hit chance and advantage on attack rolls against lightly or heavily obscured targets. And then you can throw the Belm on the offhand here, because the Belm is actually going to give you the perfectly balanced strike, which gives you a bonus action attack. However, we can also get a bonus action ability with the Band of the Mystic Scoundrel, because after hitting an enemy with a weapon attack, you can cast an illusion or enchantment spell as bonus action. This all works together really well. I also would recommend throwing on the Holy Lance Helm from Act 1. Creatures who miss their attack rolls against us will take a 1d4 Radiant, which again procs all of our gear, so that becomes crazy. And enemies will miss because Radiating Orbs makes them have less attack rolls, up to -10. When they have a -10 to their attack rolls, they're missing you and taking more damage and keeping that applied. I'd also recommend the Cloak of Protection for even further increased armor class. We're sitting at around 19, which is fine. I also have alongside the Knife of the Undermounted King the Belm, but you can throw on something like if you have the Adamantine Shield, that's fantastic. And if you don't want to, you can throw on like you can go with the Viconia's Walking Fortress there, which will give you a shield that's the best late game one. But even some of the like +2 or +3 shields that you can find are good too. Even this Wired Sled board works pretty solid on this setup. I also have the Amulet of Greater Health. This just gives us the most possible constitution. Not necessary, it's more so an end game thing just so I can showcase the build a little bit better. I actually really like the Amulet of Restoration early game because this can give you a source of a level 3 spell early on that heals the team, filling our role as a buffer. Spell Savant Amulet is also great, and the Surgeon's Subjugation, when you get a crit you can paralyze the target, which sets up even further crits. And I also have the Hellrider Longbow for that +3 to our initiative, which is obviously really nice. We can go first, guaranteed. Although there is some more defensive focused bows like the Hellfire Bow, Dark Fire Bow, my bad, that gives you resistance to fire and cold damage. But yeah, Holy Lance Helm, Cloak Protection, Luminous Armor, Luminous Gloves, Boots of Stormy Clamor, Knife of the Undermounted King, Viconia's Watching Fortress, Callous Glow Ring, Band of the Mystic Scoundrel. There's only few items that are late game level 3 or late Act 3 items. The rest are Act 1, which means you can set up really early. Now, if you know you're getting yourself into a fight, you can pre-cast Spirit Guardians. If you want to be cheeky, you can use one of the free casting staves like Marka Heshker and get a free version of this. Make sure you always use the Radiant version. I'm just going to use level 3 because this build is quite overpowered. And the nice thing with that is you can have that for 10 turns, and then just make sure the turn goes down so you get your action back. And then with the debuff King or Queen here, so all you have to do is run around. You can see we have 4 stacked Radiating Orbs. Poor soul got a couple stacks of Radiating Orbs. In a 3-meter radius, they're going to explode thanks to our armor. So yeah, we got a couple stacks off there. We didn't even trigger so that they would get hit with that. But sometimes you can bait people to get attacked because you do a 1d4 of radiant damage to further apply these. So that can be really nice. The first step you should always take on your turns is just mapping out movement. Just be mindful not to overextend in any area, but what you want to do is try to apply as many debuffs as possible and then look for any targets that have a couple of them in a row together. Now, we don't really have much great placement here. We'll have to wait for the next turn when enemies may be standing beside each other, because your first order of business should be to use a slashing flourish on 2 targets. We can at this current moment, but we can use a slashing ranged flourish here and attack the spellcaster that I really want gone and this other target here. And we'll roll the crit for why not. And that took that target out and actually took the other one out with the extra radiant damage. Perfect. I move close, so I have disadvantage, but I'm still going to use another slashing flourish on these 2 targets and hope to at least debuff them. We got reverberation off on that one. That was good. And we got reverb on both of them. So we don't want to burn through our spell slots too quickly. And another thing, for the slashing flourish, I should mention, make sure you go to your reactions tab and make sure that Divine Smite is turned on here so that you'll have a Divine Smite. It will use the highest level, so I'd leave my level 4 ones off and then just have like the divine smite on a reaction there so that we can get some little extra damage off. And this just means you can do a normal attack. You don't have to go for the divine smite. It'll ask you if you want to apply extra damage whenever you do get the hit off. He has 30 health left after that, so I'll go with a level 2 one. That's enough to finish him off. Now, we really thrive when enemies are close up together, and there's not really, we didn't get lucky with that, so just go for another main hand attack here. We still have our, whoa, yeah, critical hit, wiped him out real quick. We still have our bonus action, which means we can use like Vicious Mockery, Confusion on a large group, or we can go with a command. The beautiful thing about command is we can use command approach here, and we can upcast this. Now, it's best to move it in a position where you can upcast it to the highest amount of people, and this kind of lets you solo the game, because at this point, whenever you apply it to multiple people, they're going to walk into your Spirit Guardians taking damage, and they lose their turn. So even though they're debuffed, we have them further debuffed. We were able to hit on 3 of them. And we also got hit with a command ourselves. That's why we have Counterspell. Amazing stuff. There's also the Illithid ability you can... Oh, that didn't work. I have difficulty mods installed. Alright, well that was not ideal. There's 2 targets here I'd love to do a slashing flourish on, but you unfortunately can't touch them from here. So what we'll do is we'll take care of this target. We got advantage because we're in a bit of shadow here, and we took him out without using our divine smite. That is the beauty of using the Knife Thunder Mountain King. You can get free advantage from shadows just like that. Now we have free shot to just go ahead and do a ranged flourish here, or slashing flourish. Hopefully I want this target taken out because they have that spell that shut us down. We got a crit off, perfect. 10 stacks of radiating orbs on both of them. Perfect, I can ignore them. Once you have max stacks of radiating orbs, that target is having a hard time hitting, and you're going to keep damaging them. So we're going to go here. This target has 30 health left. We'll use a level 2 divine smite, take them out, and then go the same here with an attack advantage. They have 40 health left. We'll use a level 3 spell slot. Be careful because you burn through spell slots quickly, but this is a good way to use them because you just have so much raw damage. They're going to be useless. We could just use our next one here on like hold person. Since I don't have another concentration held, we may as well do that. 88% success rate. Saved, we applied reverberation. So yeah, but you can see here -10 to attack rolls. Oh, they still hit. Of course, it was Shadowheart, poor thing. And we just hit this target with both our Smite the Graceless and the Reverberation there because we applied a debuff on them. And we just hit them with another stack of Reverberation. So you do some pretty silly stuff with that helmet. And we burned through our level 2 and level 3 spell slots. So I'll just go with a normal attack here and use our level 1, which is more than enough to take them out. We still don't have anyone we can use a slashing flourish on, so I guess we'll use the ranged slashing flourish and just attack 2 targets at once to see if we can pick up anything here. We got 1 target. We applied reverberation and radiating orbs on that target, and we can go finish them off. And for a little pizzazz, we may as well use like a thunderous smite here. It's a little knockback. And you can also apply Divine Smite on top of that if we didn't finish them off. So that is what I believe to be the most overpowered Bard build in Baldur's Gate 3. Go download the Winter Spirit Bard in Baldur's Gate 3. Hope you guys all have a great day, and we'll catch you in the next one.